For this intermediate challenge, we decided to give you lots of datasets that you'll need to combine together in order to find the answer. And the answer that we're looking for is which of these transactions should we flag as potentially fraudulent and how do we contact those customers. So the first dataset was transaction path, and you can see that we've got our transaction ID, which account it was coming from and which account it's going to. So the first thing to notice about this dataset is that the account from and the account to have underscores rather than spaces in their titles. So we can rename these fields all at once with rename fields at the top here. And this is quite a clever way of dynamically renaming a lot of fields. So we're looking for underscores, and you can see how those are getting highlighted in red. That's what we're going to get rid of. And then we're going to, with a space, we're going to replace that underscore with a space. And if I click the rename, then that would apply that change. I'm not going to because I've already done it in the next step instead. So that's that dataset nice and cleaned up. Let's move on to the transaction detail. Take a look at that. So this is just showing us some more information about those transactions that are being made. We can see their date, the value of those transactions, and whether or not they were cancelled. In terms of contacting customers about fraudulent transactions, we don't really need the cancelled transactions to show up, so we can just click on the Y here and say exclude. Then we can get rid of that field as well, so that we just are left with all of those transactions that actually went through. Next, we can join these two tables together. On the transaction ID, we see that we've got 92 rows being excluded at the moment. Those are those cancelled transactions, so we don't need to worry about those too much going forwards. So we get rid of that additional transaction ID field that would have come through the join, and then we filter our value to only values which are greater than 1,000. These are the ones that the bank has decided they want to flag up as being potentially fraudulent. So we went to the filter of the numeric field here and did a range of values, setting the minimum value to be 1,000. Okay, and now we need to go and look at our account tables. So our account information, let's start there. First of all, you'll notice when you read in this table, then we've got this account holder ID field, and if you hadn't made the change that I've already made, if it comes in as a numeric data type, and basically that means that it translates some of the values into nulls. So we're going to change that account holder ID to be a string instead temporarily, so that we can see that for our joint account holders, they actually have more than one account holder. So if we left this as a numeric field, we'd lose the information there. That would just be nulls. So that's why we've changed it to be a string. So we need to get each of those account holders onto their own row of data so that we can join up with the account holders table. So we go to the menu here of the account holder ID, we split up those values. We can do an automatic split probably, or we can do a custom split, splitting up on the comma and taking all of those field values. That'll give us two columns to work with now, so the account holder ID split 1 and the account holder ID split 2. So we're going to pivot those so that they're both in the same column, and this is what we end up with. So we've got our account holder split ID, and then this field here tells us about those, whether it's 1 or 2. Not too relevant information for us. And we filter out those blanks that are there. So here we have these blanks where obviously the account only has one account holder ID. So we filtered those out in this step once we've pivoted them. And then we also turn this back into a numeric value now that there aren't those two account holders in the same value. Okay, and finally we have our account holders table. So we've done another bit of transformation in our input step as well here. So we've changed our contact number to be a string because we want to be able to put in front of those contact numbers a 0. So all of the phone numbers should start with a 0, but of course when it's treated numerically, the 0 won't stick around. So that's why we've changed them to be a string. Okay, so we join these two tables together. And I don't think in this solution I've actually added on the 0. Maybe I do that later. I do not. So let's just add that 0 on quickly now. So let's just create a calculated field, call it our contact number, and that's going to overwrite our current contact number, but we're just going to add a 0 to the front of that. And now that makes it actually a valid phone number that we could call. Okay, so we join those together and we keep only our relevant fields here. So we're just excluding basically any of those joins. Sorry, we joined on the account holder ID there, of course. So excluding any of those joining fields now and just keeping the relevant ones. Okay, then we join this up to our table by the account from to the account number. So we are interested in where the transaction is originating. So that's why it's the account from that we join to the account number. And of course that removes a lot of the customers because we're only looking at those transactions that were above £1,000. Again, we're just removing any unnecessary fields there and filtering out our platinum customers as well. So the account type platinum, we didn't want to include that here. Platinum customers can transfer any amount they like without raising this particular fraud suspicion. So that's how we get to our final data set. I hope you enjoyed this challenge and thank you very much for watching.